Hey, attorneys. I know that every week on this show, I give you some insights on some marketing ideas that are powerful in the digital realm. I talk about display ads, I talk about Google AdWords, I talk about SEO, social media, etc., and they all work phenomenal for attorneys. This week, I am going to bring a different aspect of digital marketing for you because I always like to give you value. So I'm going to introduce you to a gentleman that's going to show you exactly why you as an attorney should be podcasting. So without further ado, enjoy the show.
Hello, and welcome to Marketing Solutions for Local Businesses, the podcast where you will discover all the latest and greatest digital marketing tools, tips, and strategies you will need to implement in order to stay ahead of your competition. If you are not getting the results you are looking for from your digital marketing efforts, this is the podcast for you. And now, here's the host of our show, the local business guy himself, Frank Deming.
Hello, everyone. This is Frank Deming, the local business guy, and welcome to another episode of Marketing Solutions for Local Businesses. Happy Wednesday. Happy hump day, everyone. I hope you guys are having a rockin' week thus far. Today, as I said in the pre-intro, I have a special guest, something that I have never, ever touched upon since I've been doing this podcast in 3 years. And I'm going to actually talk to someone who is going to enlighten you as to why we should all be doing podcasting, especially if you're an attorney. Anyway, without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to the great Robert Ingalls.
Frank, thank you so much for that introduction, and thanks for having me. I could tell just from all of our banter before we hit record that, at the risk of jinxing this, I think this is going to be a fun episode.
I think so as well. So Robert, why don't you give us a little bit of background about yourself? Who are you and what do you do?
Sure. How long do you have? So I am I'm a recovering trial lawyer. And I did about 7 years before it took me about 5 years before I just couldn't take it anymore. But then it took about 2 more years to fully rip that Band-Aid off. And now I'm producing podcasts for law firms. It wasn't nearly as easy to make that transition as it sounds like. I had a number of years of trying to figure out where I was going, who I was. And I was also starting a family. I'd just gotten married at the same time. So, perfect timing for that kind of existential crisis. And it ended up being really lovely. I was telling you off the mic earlier that I worked at a small firm and I was in charge of the newsletter. I was learning how to do our pay-per-click ads. I was handling a lot of automation that in the firm and setting appointments and automated calendar invites and a lot of other things, a CRM. Then I started the podcast at the firm, and the only time that I wasn't overwhelmed with anxiety and just ready to jump out a window was when I was doing the marketing. And it was interesting for me. And so over a period of a couple of years, as I was trying to figure out what I was doing, I got a corporate job and I had a few different irons in the fire, but the one I was most passionate about was podcasting. And so taking what I learned from law, riches in the niches, you got to be known for something hyper specific if you really want to try to break out. I said, I'm going to do this for lawyers. And it was an uphill battle in the beginning because lawyers are always late to the party. They're convinced they don't need the new thing. It's a bright, shiny object. They don't want it. But I was convinced that it was real. I was convinced that it was going to be a real marketing tool for people. I think you have to be convinced when you're an entrepreneur. You have to believe, even, and sometimes you're not right, but I don't think you have any chance of success if you don't really lean in and believe it. So I believed it, and it looks like I was right. So that's nice. It worked out.
Yeah, that's awesome. So out of curiosity, you touched on a lot of different marketing avenues. Why did you select podcasting? I'm just curious.
So I'll start it with a story, as I'm apt to do. Mm-hmm. I had just gotten married, and my wife came in as I was packing for the lake one day. I'd been married a couple of months, and she said, "I want to have a baby." And I said, "Okay." And she looked at me and she said, like, now. And I was like, now? And she was like, well, I just took my temperature and I think that like now is good. And so my entire world shifted in a moment, because when we got married, it was like, maybe we will, maybe we won't. Maybe we'll be the cool aunt and uncle that travel the world and bring home cool gifts. And not that I didn't want children, but it was in that, 5 seconds earlier, all of that was tomorrow guy's problem. And then in that moment, it was today guy's problem. And I kind of had a proper freak out, mostly unbeknownst to my wife. But after that,
he knows now.
After that, I decided I've got to get my shit together.
Right.
And because I was very overwhelmed, stressed, anxious, really struggling in my career and not really making any money either. And I sat down and I made a list, and I still have that list saved on my desktop. I took a picture of it. And at the top of that list was money management. Got to figure out my finances. Like, I don't even know what I'm making. I don't know where it's going, but I know there's never any of it. And if somebody's going to live here next year, I got to get that figured out. And so I downloaded a book and I listened to it. I liked that book. I read another book by the author. The end of that book said, listen to our podcast. I'd never listened to a podcast before. So I opened up the app, I listened to their podcast, and here we are. But wow. It was just incredible when I didn't love the first podcast I listened to. It wasn't really for me, but the second one I listened to was. And it was, the guest was this guy named Tom Bilyeu. I've probably said his name a million times because he's very important in my life. And he said something that I'd heard a million times. I'd heard it over and over. We've all heard it. And the real gist was, you can be anything you want. That was the takeaway. And I finally heard it. I'd been following the safe path my whole life.
Yeah.
Go to school, go to law school, do the thing, do what other people did. That's safe. You can do that. It's not hard. I mean, all effort is effort, and you have to go in and you have to actually do the work in order to pass the bar and all that stuff. But at the same time, it's not that hard. There's a path. You just have to do the work. And when you step outside that path, you don't know. And so I'd always stayed inside that path. And in that moment, it kind of washed over me. I was like, I think I can do anything I want. And so that led me to, having a podcast at the firm. And that, 30 days after I listened to that podcast, I bought the mic I'm talking into right now. Thankfully, it worked, because this mic says a lot about my personality. Go big or go home. And thankfully it worked, because they don't give these things away. But I bought the microphone, I bought the mixer, and I started sitting with one of my friends after hours in the law office, just like figuring it all out and playing with the knobs. It's a lot easier to do now than it used to be. Yeah. And I just loved it from day one. From day one, I loved the medium. I loved how powerful the medium was, that you could sit in your car and get something. You could be running, you could be at the gym, you could be walking the dog, you could be mowing the yard, and you could consume whatever you wanted. Everything was there.
Right.
Everything I wanted. I just type a word, and there's 100 shows about that word.
It's amazing.
And it was amazing to me. And I was able to learn. I mean, a couple of years of my life were consumed with knowledge and personal development and business, and just consuming. Just my appetite was insatiable. And podcasting is what did that for me. And so I played around with it for a while. I started one in my firm as part of our other marketing efforts, and I was so in love with it. I had a hard time talking about the law on my law podcast. And so eventually that podcast became my personal podcast, because I just dropped the law part of the title and made it just my own personal podcast. Okay. And I just was so in love with the medium right away. It was, I've said this before to people, and they say, well, how did you choose? How did you choose to be a podcaster? And I'm like, that's kind of like asking me, how did I choose to fall in love with my wife? I did not. I had no choice. I saw her standing there. I have to talk to that human. And then when I did, I was like, I have to never let this human get too far from me.
Right.
That's how I felt about podcasting. It was so beautiful to me. I was so interested in it, and the network effect immediately of it. Like you
Yeah.
and I did not know each other this morning.
No.
Now we are getting to know each other in real time right now. At the end
That's
of this
right.
conversation, you're going to publish the episode. I'm going to put the episode out. We're going to be connected on LinkedIn. We're going to be sharing it. People are going to be commenting.
Mm-hmm.
We know each other now. We're part of each other's network now.
Right.
And that's beautiful to me, that without these two microphones, you and I probably never see each other in life.
Exactly.
It's beautiful to me.
Yeah, it's an awesome thing. Well, that was a great analogy on the whole with your wife thing, because I know a lot of people, listening to us can relate to that, because we've all been there. So that was great. That was great. Let me ask you something. So how does your podcast help attorneys?
So that's a very big question.
Mm-hmm.
And it really depends on the kind of attorney you are, because a lot of attorneys will contact me
mm-hmm.
and they'll say, I want to do a podcast. And I'm like, beautiful, you're in the right place.
Mm-hmm.
What do you want to do it about? Why are we doing it? Is really the big question. Why? What are we trying to accomplish? Because sometimes they will say, I want to do this, but they haven't thought through why, what they're going to do, what it's going to be about, who's going to listen. Because the misconception I usually see is I'm going to make a podcast where I talk about interesting things and it's going to be sponsored by the firm and people are just going to listen to it in their spare time. I think that's possible. I think it's really hard. I mean, some of the biggest podcasters in the world took years to grow a following. And even then, a lot of them were still pretty niche on who they were trying to talk to. And so we back it up and we think, what are we doing this for? Who is going to listen? What's the action we want those people to take? What's the end result of doing this podcast? And for a lot of firms, especially smaller firms, we work with a lot of injury firms. A lot of times that comes back to answering questions.
Mm-hmm.
You're not trying to make the most entertaining show in the world. I mean, if you're an entertaining human, a lot of trial lawyers can be entertaining. Absolutely. Show your personality. Let people know. Tell a joke here and there. Just let them into your world. Let them know who you are. Tell some stories, real life stuff. But at the end of the day, if they're on an attorney's website listening to an attorney's podcast, there's a good chance something bad happened, depending on the kind of attorney you are. If you're a PI attorney, something bad has happened.
Something bad happened,
to them or someone they love.
Mm-hmm.
And they're usually there to get information. That's why we write blogs. That's our SEO angle, is we're creating all of this content to A, draw people to the site, but then B, nurture them while they're there. Give them the information that they came for. Make them feel good. Make them know that you're the person who knows.
Right.
You are the person to take them on this journey. And the podcast is a beautiful complement to that. It's content on the website, good for SEO, good to drive traffic, good to nurture the lead when they're there. Keep them on the site longer. Keep them engaged with good content. Again, boosting your SEO. But what it's also doing is when they're listening to that podcast, they are getting what they came for, an answer to their question. They had a pain point. They wanted to know the answer. They typed it into Google. They landed on your site. Now they're listening to your voice. They're getting an answer to that question. But what they're also getting is you. They're hearing your voice. They're getting to know you a little bit. They're getting to understand a little bit about your vibe, which is important. They're qualifying themselves. But what they can also do is go, I don't like that person. I think that's equally important. If they just don't get the right vibe for you, the fact that they can now just move on without having to waste their time, because if they show up and then they sign with you, they turn into a bad client. I mean, I think any attorney who deals with clients knows that it's better to have no client than a bad client usually.
Than a bad client. Yeah.
Right. And so they get a chance to get to know you, to understand who you are, get a vibe for you, and then they sit down across the table from you and you open your mouth, they already know you. The most interesting thing happened to me when I went to my very first podcast conference. I'd been consuming podcasts a lot for almost 2 years, and I'm sitting in this room, and the session's about to start, and I hear this voice in the back of the room, and I'm just like, it just takes me, and I know who it is before I turn around, because I've listened to probably 100 hours of this person. There's a show called Entrepreneur on Fire with John Lee Dumas. Okay. And I was trying to learn to become an entrepreneur. And these were little 25-minute bite-sized episodes from entrepreneurs who were successful. And so I used to listen to it a lot. And I heard him talking, and I was like, it was just incredible, the connection I felt to a human, and I hadn't even turned around and seen his face yet. I was also struck by how slow he talks because I listened to my podcast on 2X. So I was like, this dude talks really slow because I'm used to hearing him so fast.
Okay. That's
but
funny.
that not to just hijack the entire conversation and go towards, hey, here's all the things. But that is usually one of the best ways for an attorney to leverage a podcast, is to answer questions that people show up for. Bigger firms that I work with are very much into the thought leadership game. They're thinking, I want to be the first person to opine on XYZ issue. Something happens, I want to talk about it. Legislative developments, I want to talk about it. Then I'm going to become the person who other lawyers listen to their podcast in order to get that information, or other people in the private equity field listen to their podcast to get that information. You are consistently the person talking about the thing. You have a podcast that people want to listen to because they enjoy who you are, but they also enjoy the information they're getting. And so there's so many other reasons. I didn't even dabble into the content marketing side of it. I was just giving you like, here's some good things to do with your podcast. But podcasts also turn into just a mountain of great content for your website and for your social channels.
Yeah. I totally agree. And I find it interesting that you chose the law field because, well, it makes sense to you because you are recovering attorney. But like me, I also service the law industry, but I only service, family law attorneys, PIs, bankruptcy, estate planning, some probate stuff. But you seem to go throughout the whole gamut. Like, is there any a particular law you don't serve, or this podcast can do for anybody?
There's some that we do more of and some we do less of. Over the last year, we have really focused primarily on injury attorneys.
Okay.
And that kind of happened by accident. We'd really been making inroads in big law. We have lots of clients that are some of the biggest firms in the world, and we very much enjoy working with them. We get to do really fun stuff with them, but we ended up getting a few different PI attorneys that have very big practices. And what was so fun to work with them is PI attorneys understand marketing. A lot of them do. The ones that are good really understand the game. They understand the need to be out there, the need to brand, the need to always be in front of people. Touch point. And they're not scared to just jump in with both feet into something. And so when we started working with some of them, they let us do incredible things. They let us do really fun things that we hadn't really been able to do. I mean, if somebody sends you a YouTube video and they say, you've got to see this lawyer commercial, you already know what practice area it is, right?
Yeah.
It's an injury lawyer doing something crazy. And that, I love that energy. I love the energy of like, where's the line? Okay, I'm going to stomp on it. Like, I'm going to jump right over it. And they let you do fun things. They understand marketing. They're out there. They want to be out there consistently. They want to be talking all the time about something and creating lots of content and putting it out all over the place. And so we found a nice little niche with PI attorneys. I mean, we work with family law attorneys. We work with estate planning attorneys. We have a lot of corporate attorneys doing M&A work, doing private equity, and doing international tax. And so we're all over the place, but the injury field has been a lot of fun for us.
Hey guys, I hope you guys are enjoying this topic this week. I hope you guys, and more importantly, I hope you guys are implementing everything that we talk about each and every week, because it's very important for your business. Also, don't forget to subscribe to whatever app you listen to on this, because that's where you won't miss any updates on any episodes that we have. Also want to remind you, if you want to ensure that your digital marketing presence is on point, if you want to make sure that there are no errors happening when someone actually is looking for your business, that way people can find you exactly when they need you, go to my website, lbmsllc.com. Go to on the home page, and where it says online presence report. Click on that. You will have your own personalized online presence report. It's free of charge. It's going to tell you exactly how you're appearing online. This is a gold mine that I'm giving you for free. And I want all of my listeners to take advantage of that. So without further ado, I'm going to bring you right back to the show. It's funny you mentioned that. I got to look for it, and hopefully I can find it, when we get off the air here. But I saw this funny TikTok on a personal injury attorney. It was pretty hilarious. I got to find it and send it to you. I think you've probably seen it because you deal with a lot of PIs.
Probably. Yeah. I mean, so 2 weeks ago, I was in Los Angeles recording at a Trial Lawyers University conference, and one of our episodes was with this guy, Daryl the Hammer. And he had a Super Bowl commercial in his local market of him. He's basically like a superhero with his hammer coming to like banish the insurance adjuster. And this thing has incredible production value. And it's that kind of, I love it. I love just what it takes to decide, hey, there's no such thing as too big.
Yeah. No, I totally get that. That's funny. So, I love the fact that you work with attorneys and you have a niche market. So let me ask you this about podcasting, because, we're talking about, there's a reason why everyone's doing it, right? So in your opinion, why is everyone now? I know we're talking about attorneys, but why is everyone doing a podcasting right now?
Because it's so cool and fun.
So, all right, I find it fun.
Right.
I do. And I'm sure you do as well, obviously. But like, I don't know a lot of people who are finding it fun. Like, for instance, I've interviewed a few people, and this is cool because we're vibing, we're talking, and you're having fun. But I've interviewed some people that I was like pulling teeth to get them to speak.
Those monosyllabic answers.
Yes. You got it. And sometimes I choose to promote it. Sometimes I don't promote it or whatever. But what? On the other side of things, why is everyone? There's a reason why everyone's doing it. What is that reason in your point of view?
I think the connection is the biggest part of it. I also think that we all secretly believe that we should be famous and that what we have to say is important. I don't secretly believe it. I absolutely believe it. I live like it. Put a microphone in my face and let me talk. But I think that is probably one of the big draws. It's so beautiful to me. When I don't know how old you are, but I'm 42. When I was coming up, if you saw something or heard something, it had been vetted by a lot of people. A lot of people had to make decisions about whether this was going to be good, whether it was going to be profitable. And honestly, it had to be profitable in order for it to exist. It couldn't exist if it couldn't get at least a certain number of ears on it or a certain number of eyeballs on it. It just couldn't exist because the way the platforms were set up. And so by the time you saw it, you were getting kind of the most homogenous thing in the world because they only wanted to make it if it had some mass appeal. And a lot of the people making those decisions looked the same, sounded the same, came from the same places. And so the amount of diverse content that we were getting was abysmal. That's over. The gatekeepers are gone.
Yeah.
And even at places like Netflix, they create so much content there that they can create really niche things that somebody from a really small part of the world might enjoy, and that's still successful for them. And that's what podcasting is. The gatekeeper is gone in podcasting. Like with Anchor, not that I want to promote Anchor. I think that having, your own hosting platform is a great thing because you own the content, but it's free if you want to just get started.
Yeah.
You don't even need a great microphone. I mean, I recommend a good, decent microphone, but you just sit down and you talk and you can publish it. And if you have something to say and it's compelling, you can find people that have similar thoughts. You can connect with people and you don't need any money to do it. You can really just get started. You can go to your public library and rent a microphone, record some episodes, upload those to a free hosting platform and distribute them everywhere. And now your message is available. You can connect with other people. You can say what's in your heart. You can create something beautiful that only you can create, and the world can see it, and the world can decide if that's something that they want. That's beautiful.
Yeah, I mean,
And I think that is really the reason that so many people are into it. And another reason I think for the, not people are into it because it's successful and we're in this moment where it's really exciting. But I think one of the reasons it is so popular is because it does what no other medium can do. It sells you time. It doesn't say stop and watch. It doesn't say sit and read. It says, what are you about to do? I'll come with you. Let's do it together. Let's go get on the train and ride. Let's go, run. Let's do whatever you're going to do. Let's sit in this boring, soul-crushing meeting. I'll do it I'll be there with you. And so you can consume it on your time while you're doing whatever you want to without necessarily diverting your attention from your task. And people love that. People love to be able to consume content, entertainment, information while they are being able to do other things. It just keeps you company. It's beautiful.
Now, as part of your services, do you I know you interview attorneys on your show, but do you also help them start their own podcast, or is that?
That's our primary business model.
Start their podcast.
We produce their shows for them. You do the talking, we do the rest.
Okay. Got it.
You come to us because you want to start a podcast, and we say, okay, let's do it. Let's strategize. Let's create your professional voiceover intros and outros. We only use professional voice actors that you're going to hear on, movie trailers and Nissan commercials. And we're going to choose a soundtrack and mix that for you. It's going to sound lights out, and make your cover art for you, get you published everywhere. You're going to be on Apple and Spotify and Google, and it's going to be on your website. It's going to look good. We're going to make a YouTube video for you that is going to look and sound great. We're going to create marketing assets from every episode, little 60-second, 90-second clips on branded backgrounds with captions that people are actually going to see in their social feeds, because that's the kind of content that social platforms like to promote, because it engages people. We're going to do all of those things just from a 25, 30-minute conversation the lawyer sits down and has. They get up, they walk away, they're done. We take it and we turn it into all that content. So it's just maximum content, minimum investment.
There you go. So you heard that, attorneys, all you guys who are listening to me, you've been following me for the past year and a half or so, since I've been pushing out primarily law content. If you have a podcast in you, reach out to Robert. And let me ask you this question. This has nothing to do with attorneys in general, but in your opinion, since we're talking about podcasting, should there be what is the sweet spot in terms of cadence, like for your show? Like my show is a weekly show. Have you seen anything in terms of cadence, in terms of for having a successful show?
Weekly show is always better.
Okay.
It's just you're just consistently generating content and getting out in front of people, because that's the name of the game. Is we want to be if you've ever talked to your SEO strategist, content. We're always creating content. We're always getting our backlinks. And that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to create our content. And then we also have guests. We're sending it to them. We're trying to get backlinks there. And so a weekly show is always the easiest way to do, or the most effective way to do it. But what people say, I can't sit down once a week and do that. You're in luck. One of the ways we record with a lot of attorneys is we will record 3 or 4 episodes at a time.
Yeah.
So we'll sit down and we'll carve out a little 90-minute, 2-hour block, and we'll hit all of our episodes. And then we've got a month right there. We've got all of our content right there, and we just roll it out. And then we try to stay a month ahead. So that way trial comes up, you miss a recording, things like that. We've always got some content in the can. And our clients stick with us, because it works, because they're seeing a return. Like, it's absolutely working for them. But they also stick with us because it's so easy. We don't create this big time investment for them. We don't ask them to go somewhere, show up, and sit down. We tell them, wherever you are, if you are on vacation in Fiji and you have your microphone and an internet connection, you're podcasting. Because we set up a studio for you, a virtual studio for you. We have a producer in the studio that shows up, checks your microphone levels, makes sure everything's good, presses record, you talk. That's it. You talk. They hang up, and that's it. They go back to their vacation, or they hop back up and go back to wherever it is that they needed to be doing. And so the amount of time it takes them to do these things is when they look at the rest of their business development plan, this is the part most attorneys tell me, like, this is the highlight of my day or my week is being able to sit and do this, because they enjoy it too. They're lawyers. We like hearing ourselves talk. And so that's part of it. They just enjoy doing it as well.
Yeah. It's funny you say that about that. I never leave on vacation without this. I bought this phone mic. It's for my cell phone that you plug it in and it just amplifies. And I carry with me because if I'm on vacation and I see something that I have a good marketing idea, I just start talking and I create that as some content. And it's not as good quality as this, but you can't really tell a lot of a difference unless, see, you're a podcaster, you'll be able to tell. But for the layman person, they won't be able to tell that I'm doing it on my phone versus the mic I'm doing it on now. So it's kind of interesting.
And at the end of the day, the content's what matters.
Yeah.
If you've got something to say, as long as it doesn't hurt my ears to listen to it, if you have something to say that matters, I want to listen to it. And so I think a lot of people get tripped up there. They get into this idea of, I've got to make it perfect.
Yeah.
And is it perfect is the enemy of good? Is that it? Like, you ship it. I learned that years ago. Ship it. You have to create something. You have to get it out. You have to let the world see it, and then figure out, okay, I can just, here's a little something I can do better. But at the same time, like, the content is ultimately, at the end of the day, getting something out there that matters is way better than never getting something out because you wanted to wait till it was perfect.
Yeah. I actually learned that from, I'm sure you heard of him, Pat Flynn.
Of course. I know Pat Flynn.
Oh, you know? Okay.
Yeah, I've had dinner with Pat Flynn. That was a cool moment in my life to go from listeling to Smart Passive Income to like having dinner with the guy at a podcast conference.
Yeah.
It was wonderful. He's brilliant.
Yeah, he's very bright. So I learned exactly what you said earlier about just getting it out there. I learned that from him. Podcasting is great. And this has been awesome. And I want everyone on this that's listening to this to connect with Robert, because I'm telling you, if you've got if you are looking for different ways of getting connected with your audience, definitely look up Robert. But before I let you go, Robert, I'm going to put your website in my show notes here so people can connect with you. I will also love to put your LinkedIn so people can connect with you on there so they can find out a lot about LawPods. So it's lawpods.com. The link will be in the show notes for sure. But before I let you go, is there anything that I did not ask you that you think will benefit the audience?
One thing, so I'll tell you one thing that I see in podcasting right now is a lot of attorneys are looking at it the way that they looked at websites. They're looking at it the way that they looked at social media.
Okay.
They're looking at it as a nice to have. And obviously, from my perspective, it benefits me for them to look at it as a have to have. But your consumer behavior is changing. People are starting to want that. They want to be able to show up and get answers that way, especially the younger generation. When you look at their behavior, they are turning to podcasts for their news, for their information. And that is going to spill over into every area of their life. And law isn't going to be exempt. All of a sudden, they want to get their information, but no, it's okay for me to read this blog or watch this video where I can see how many books that you own. And so as consumer behavior shifts, that's going to be even more important to have this information on our websites, on podcast players in a way that people want to consume it. So they don't have to stop what they're doing. They're able to keep doing what they're doing. And then just the SEO angle, your competitors are doing it. And some of them are doing it really, really well. And a lot of times you'll see where people will say, well, that's not for us. We don't need it. That's a bright, shiny object. We saw it with websites. As hard as that is to believe, we have a brick and mortar office. We don't need a website. People know who we are. We have our billboards. And then people went, oh, well, everybody's got a website now. Like, whatever, like, did they miss the boat on it or something? That's what people will say. People will tell me, oh, well, these other two firms have a podcast. So you shouldn't have one. You'd rather people listen to theirs. And then we finally reach that saturation point where they will then say, oh, why aren't we doing this? and we're not there yet. And so this is the moment to get ahead. This is the moment to start creating content that's going to help you rank, that's going to help you start to resonate more with people that are coming to your website. And that's what I tell people is don't wait on it. Even if you're doing it yourself, figure out a way to get some content out there, get it on your website, and start connecting with people kind of in a deeper way. So, don't let it be websites and social media that you waited too long on.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. Funny story. I remember when I was starting to just focus on helping attorneys, I would tell them, hey, I noticed that your firm is not on Google. And they would tell me stuff like, well, I'm on Ivo, I'm on Find Law, I don't really need Google. I mean, that's where people find me on Ivo. And it's just small thinking, it's like you said, they're usually the last ones to jump on the bandwagon.
Yeah.
But it's interesting.
And I get it. I mean, I get it. There's a lot. There's so much all the time. Having been a lawyer, I know the emails. You get an email every day about some nonsense. and I'm sending some of those emails now. Sorry. But
now you're on the other side.
Right. Hey, but it's the way it works. And I get it. There's so many things out there. There's so many moving parts. Like, how do you know what the real thing is? I get that. And at the end of the day, that is what separates attorneys who end up being successful from those who complain. I know a lot of lawyers. I go to a lot of conferences, and there's great lawyers, very great trial lawyers, but they're complaining. They can't get cases, and they're, bitching about the big firm down the road that's, hoovering everything up. But this firm isn't doing any SEO. They're not doing any social media marketing. They're not taking the steps that you have to take. And I get it. They're like, oh, it's expensive. It is. But one of my clients, his name's Matt Dolman. This guy's a genius marketer in Clearwater. And he said on a podcast I was recording with him, he said marketing's our 30% partner. Every year, marketing gets paid 30%. If I don't get paid, marketing still gets paid. Because he knows that if you stop paying your marketing partner, you don't make it. And I think attorneys struggle with that. They say 30% or whatever percent. Like, how? That's business. That's tends to be what separates people, is their ability to really get out there and take business seriously and stay at the front of it. So
you got to spend money to make money.
I mean, that boil it down to that. As long, you have to spend money. I guess I'll give a caveat to that. You have to spend money wisely, to make money, but you got to spend it.
You got to spend it. Yes. Well said, my friend. Well, this has been great, man. I think probably one of my favorite episodes. And I say that without doubt. I mean, I love talking law, and I love talking marketing, and especially an innovative marketing idea like podcasting. Never been done before on this show. So I thank you for kicking it up a notch for my audience here. So there you have it, folks. Connect with Robert. You'll see all his information on the show notes. You will not regret it. So until next week, this has been Frank Deming, the local business guy, and you've just been blessed by the great Robert Ingalls. Take care, everyone. Until next week. Peace out.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Marketing Solutions for Local Businesses, the podcast where you will discover all the latest and greatest digital marketing tools, tips, and strategies you will need to implement in order to stay ahead of your competition. Don't forget, any links that were mentioned during the broadcast will be available to you in the show notes, so be sure to grab them while you have the chance. Incidentally, if you have any topics that you would like for us to discuss on the show, be sure to send an email to the email provided in the show notes, or click the Contact Us link and let us know what topic you would like us to help you with, and we'll be sure to add it to our schedule. If you would like for Frank and his team to look at your digital marketing presence and give you a free evaluation, simply click the Request a Free Consultation link in the show notes to get a hold of them. That being said, until our next episode, make it a successful digital marketing day. Peace out.